Yo, what's good with y'all, man? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm gonna be breaking down a dark and vintage sample that sounds like this. So yeah, now that we're at the desk, let's go ahead and break down the sample. So actually, before I made the sample, I was watching a bunch of different Beat Center tutorials, and it kind of made me super inspired to make some type of sample like this. So yeah, shout out to him. I'm gonna be using some of his sauce in here. So definitely go check his stuff out for sure. So yeah, the sample is made at 121 BPM. And actually, the first thing I started was this phrase from Liwi's Nemo kit. And I know I talked about it in the last video. This kit is crazy. Definitely go check that one out for sure. He put together a crazy kit. So this is what the initial phrase sounds like. And then I chopped it up and then flipped it into this. So what I'm doing to create this type of bounce is just adding a bunch of silence. So right here, I just cut it off right here. It's giving a little bit of silence. And I'm just doing that right before every different like bar. And then to add even more bounce, what I did was just make this unique, pitch it up an octave, and then reversed it. And it sounds like this. And then what I did was throw some reverb on that. And then I automated the reverb so it kind of swells up like this. The next thing I did was add these textures that I created, and this is what it sounds like. So basically how I made this texture was using Ample Guitar L, and I just came over to this effects tab right here and turned off all the effects. I believe there's some like reverb and like delay on it. I just turned that all off. Then I made this super simple pattern right here. So for the effects, I added a tau filter, which kind of tremolos it a little bit. And then I added the Cymatics Lotus, and you can copy down all these settings right here, just like this. And then I recorded a bunch of times in the Edison, and this is what some of the recordings sound like. Then I recorded some more textures that sound like this, using the same techniques as before. And like I said, I chopped it all up, and then I added some halftime on some of them, and then it gave me that final texture right there. And if you want to see a more expanded video on how I make textures and accents, you can click this video right here. I think it's right there. I honestly don't even know, but you can click this video right here on screen, and that goes over my whole process on how I make textures. The next thing I added was this bass line right here. This is just a one shot from Beat Center Sync one shot kit. And then the final thing I added for this intro section was this Labs piano. You guys already know this is my favorite piano, literally the best piano, and it's completely free. And it sounded like this with all the effects on. And for the effects, there's a ton of stuff on this. We got a vintage verb, we got a Volv compressor. You can look at those settings right here. We got an EQ, very weird EQ going on here. RC20 on the sad piano, another EQ. Then to add some more sauce, added this halftime, 1/2 loop, 2 times mode, a pitch shifter pitching up by 12, another EQ kind of drowning it out. And then I added this tau filter, which kind of is mimicking what I did at the very beginning of the sample when I chopped it up and made it that like kind of bounce, phasing it in and out with the silence. So this is basically what it's doing here. And then what I did was render that out and then stretched it by 2 times. And then I chopped it up to fit the chord progression. And as you can see, what I did with this first part was just add a ton of silence. As you can see, I'm chopping the piano, I'm chopping the phrase, I'm chopping up some of these textures. I just want to establish that bounce at the very beginning. And this is what the first section sounds like. And then for the second section, which I kind of just flipped the whole thing around and made this whole like dreamy atmospheric type of vibe. In order to transition the first section to the second section, because it's so drastic, I wanted to add a couple things in. The first thing was this reverse reverb, and I went over this multiple times in my other videos, but I'll explain it again right here. All I'm doing is I'm coming to the master and putting on a Valhalla vintage verb, and you can use any reverb that you really like. And I'm just keeping all the settings normal. Make sure you have a very high decay on, and then make sure you put on an Edison and just have it record, and then just play 1 second of your audio and then drag that recording into your playlist. Once you added that recording in the playlist, reverse it. Then you can just chop it up how you like it. I just chopped it like this. Then I added some fades and stuff. And then to make the transition more smooth, I just introduced the bass, which I'm about to go over in the second section, in the first section at the very end, so it transitions very well. I hope that makes sense. And you can really hear right here. I'm just gonna play it real quick. And then it just transitions really nicely. And like I just said, I added a different bass in, and this is a Fender bass, and it's from this Green's Library one-shot kit. And for the effects, I'm adding an EQ, a fast distortion, and then another EQ. And I'm just following that chord progression, which I'm about to break down right here. And then for the chord progression, I'm adding in a textured like one shot. And this is coming from the pedal board one shot kit. And this is what the chord progression sounds like. And then for the chord progression, it's just going from an A sharp major down to an A major, and I'm adding these notes on top, and I'm just duplicating this over to the second part. And then all this chord is just the same chord, and then I just pitched up the C sharp up an octave. And then for this last chord, I just went down by 7 in the bass notes, and then I just clicked in these top chords right here. And I didn't really like nothing special, just kind of clicked it in. Then I grabbed this bell from Lee's Nemo kit to layer on top, and it sounds like this. And for the effects, it's just an EQ and then a delay. And it's on this tape preset. And then the last layer is just Labs piano, which is just following the exact same chord progression. But all I'm doing is rendering that out, pitching up an octave, and then reversing it. And then for the effects, I'm pitching up again by 12 and then pitching it down by 12. And what this does is kind of just add these like weird like artifacts and like some texture, like vintage type of vibes to it. And then to really enhance that vintage vibe, I added this flangus. This is a super dope plugin for making like dark vintage samples. And then to fill out the space, I just added a whole bunch of textures. And a couple of these textures are coming from Lee's Nemo kit again. And then a couple of them are coming from my Echoes toolkit, which is completely free. Go check that out, link in the description. And then some other textures from the Grains library, the same thing as that one shot. And then the last thing in this section is literally just a perk loop from Lee's Nemo kit. And I just added some reverb on top of that. And then what I did was duplicate that entire pattern over to the next section and added this violin in. And the violin itself is coming from Contact, and it's coming from the Joshua Bell violin. And then I'm just putting down this super simple pattern right here. And then I'm just adding EQ, cutting out the lows, a vintage verb on this room mode, and then a pan man just to pan its left and right. And then the last section is just the beginning part duplicated over. And then to just make it a little bit different, I added some textures in from the second section, and then just chopped out the main phrase going on, and this is what it sounds like. Just to kind of make it a little bit more atmospheric, not as crazy like movement going on with that phrase. And then for the master, I'm just adding this EQ to boost it up in the highs, and this just adds some more crisp to it. Then I got trusty old soft clipper. Then I'm pitching up the sample by 2, and then adding this soothe in just to tame those harsh frequencies I didn't like. And yeah, after all that is what the entire sample sounds like. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. I hope you guys learned some. I hope you guys could take some away from this. As you guys can tell, the biggest thing with these samples, adding in a bunch of textures and movement. And if you guys want to break down on how I make textures and how you can make some textures like shown in this video, you can go check out this video right here, and I'll catch you on the next one.